Let me in.
Me first.
Jim Strickland.
And Lori Groves are live from the TV 13 tour stage.
They're the first source of the day's news.
And complete coverage of the Iowa State Fair.
The Midway.
Lifestyle.
The fun. And that wacky at Wilson's Life First forecast.
Ooh, I'm all a quiver.
Hey, let me in.
Live at 5 from the Iowa State Fair.
Only on News Center 13, where the news comes first 24 hours a day.
Ed says there's clouds moving in and rain's coming with them. So keep your eye out there tonight. Time now to tell you what's coming up at 6. Here's John Bachman.
Thank you, Jim. We're going to tell you about an effective tool that police are using, video. It's helping in the crackdown on gangs and drugs. We'll tell you all about that. Also, the Olympic triple cast. How is the cable per-view program working out? We'll take a look. These stories, the rest of the news in 1/2 hour.
Thanks, John.
Finally today, you'll remember John Thompson, the young farm boy from North Dakota. His arms were severed in a farming accident, and then they were reattached.
Well, people weren't talking about his injuries as the 18-year-old Minnesota Twins fan was in the spotlight again last night.
Oh, say, can you see by the
John Thompson got a standing ovation for his rendition of the national anthem last night. John is a music student, and he is planning to pursue his singing in college. He's still undergoing therapy for his injured arms, but his vocal cords work just fine.
You bet. Time now for Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, Saddam Hussein, and George Bush. The big story. See you tomorrow.
UN inspectors were back on the job in Baghdad today as Saddam's crowds protested. Ice-T, the controversial rapper, says his Cop Killer song will be dropped from his album. And nice guys can come back and win the gold. The Pablo Morales story.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Reporting tonight from NBC News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. Saddam Hussein has managed to back down and to claim victory at the same time, while at the White House, top American officials now have lowered their guns for the time being. They fully expect another showdown. All of this over the UN inspection of Iraq's agriculture ministry for weapons violations. NBC's Tom Aspel is back on the job tonight in Baghdad. John COCHRAN is at the White House. Tom Aspel, we'll begin with you, please.
Tom, the rhetoric has died down here and the UN teams are back at work. The Iraqis let them into the Ministry of Agriculture building today.
United Nations envoy Rolf Ekeas came to Baghdad to establish the ground rules for UN inspection teams working here. No more threats or physical violence against them, and no more obstructing the search for information the UN wants on Saddam Hussein's weapons programs, especially at the Ministry of Agriculture.
Iraq has to take the key, open the door and let us in. But Iraq has an absolute obligation to do it. The pressure is on them and their legal obligation is absolute.
The inspection team went straight to work. It took the threat of military attack from the US and its allies to persuade the Iraqis that under the terms of the ceasefire agreement, the UN can inspect any location in this country. After the 3-week delay, the team was impatient.
No comment for you. Not now.
The Iraqis were more than cooperative. They even provided security men to guide the team to the Ministry of Agriculture. The inspectors will take a few days to go through the building. They fear that the Iraqis may have already removed the most sensitive material on weapons development. Perhaps to show how keen they are now to protect the UN teams while they carry out their work, Iraqi security men kept a few thousand protest marches well away from the Ministry of Agriculture this afternoon. There were similar demonstrations all over the country today to show support for Saddam Hussein.
The Iraqis have the message now, and they've taken note of a 3rd aircraft carrier George Bush has sent to the region in case further confrontations develop. Tom?
Tom, what about Saddam Hussein? Where was he today?
Well, he's been relaxing, apparently. Iraqi TV broadcast pictures of him swimming in a river in northern Iraq and also playing around in his speedboat, acting as though nothing had happened. Tom?
Thank you very much. Tom Aspel tonight in Baghdad. And now let's go to John COCHRAN at the White House, where President Bush is making these decisions with the added pressure of a political campaign that's not going well. John COCHRAN?
Tom, publicly the president's men are saying the crisis is defused. Privately they're saying another confrontation is inevitable and the next one may end in bloodshed.
From outward appearances, the latest square-off with Saddam is over. Today, the Pentagon reversed an order for the carrier Kennedy to proceed to the Mediterranean to intimidate Saddam. But in a day of mixed signals, the Pentagon announced American troops will stage 17 days of war games in Kuwait starting Monday. and President Bush demanded to know from congressional leaders who would stand with him if he has to take action alone against Saddam without help from coalition allies. Most of the leaders, like Senator Mitchell and Speaker Foley, felt Allied support was vital. Only two leaders, the chairman of military committees, Senator Nunn and Representative Aspen, flatly told Bush they would back unilateral military action if needed. But Aspen is deeply critical of Bush for permitting Saddam to stop U.S. experts from joining the nuclear inspection team.
So the very fact that the negotiations took place was a victory for Saddam Hussein.
Administration sources tell NBC News that senior Pentagon official Paul Wolfowitz also felt the U.S. made a mistake compromising with Saddam. White House spokesman Fitzwater admitted that he, Saddam, won on that point in the sense of that inspection team, but my point is that it's not relevant to the quality of that inspection. Democrats, of course, are eager to debunk Bush's foreign policy credentials.
He coddled Saddam Hussein right up until the war, and as soon as the war was over, he wanted him to stay in power.
If President Bush and Vice President Quayle are such whizzes in foreign policy, why is it that Saddam Hussein is thumbing his nose at the entire world?
Frustrated White House officials say this is the last time Saddam Hussein will thumb his nose. They say President Bush is ready to resume the air war if Saddam tries again to keep Americans off the next inspection team next month. Tom?
Thank you, John Cochran at the White House. And another big story breaking across Washington tonight, the indictments of two powerful insiders in the BCCI banking scandal. One of those to be indicted is practically a Washington monument, lawyer and presidential advisor Clark Clifford. NBC's Brian Ross originally broke the BCCI story, and he has more for us tonight. Brian?
Tom, the indictments are expected tomorrow against Clifford and his protege Robert Altman for their involvement with BCCI, which has come to be known as the Bank of Crooks and Criminals International. This was Clifford this morning, arriving at his Washington law office. Until he got caught up in the BCCI scandal, Clifford was the preeminent Washington insider, the confidant, the man other men of power turned to when they were in trouble. Clifford helped run the Truman White House, a close advisor to John Kennedy, Secretary of Defense for Lyndon Johnson, a special envoy for Jimmy Carter. Now, at age 85, to the shock of many in Washington, it is Clark Clifford who is in trouble.
The questions will have to be referred to my counsel. Thank you all.
Also expected to be charged with Clifford is his longtime law partner, Robert Altman, a Washington socialite and husband of the television actress who played Wonder Woman, Linda Carter. Altman and Clifford are expected to be indicted for their alleged role in covering up BCCI's secret takeover of what was Washington's biggest bank, First American.
First American Bank.
First American, with branches in 6 states, advertised itself as the All-American Bank. Clifford even appeared in the television commercials. And for some 10 years, as far as American bank regulators knew, Clifford and Altman ran First American as chairman and president, and everything was on the up and up. What investigators now say they can prove is that Clifford and Altman were really well-paid frontmen, helping to hide the fact that the bank was secretly owned by BCCI. Jack Blum is the former Senate investigator who first uncovered the alleged role of Clifford and Altman in the BCCI scandal.
This went on for many years. BCCI was a corrupt, money laundering, weapons dealing, criminal enterprise that bought one of the largest banks in Washington and got itself and that large bank fronted by Clark Clifford and Robert Altman. And the question is, how could people have lent their names to this operation knowingly?
Much of what Blum uncovered ended up on the desk of New York District Attorney Robert Morgenthau, who pursued the case at a time when the Bush administration Department of Justice showed little interest in going after the Washington connection to BCCI. And law enforcement authorities say, as big as tomorrow's expected indictment of Clark Clifford will be, Prosecutor Morgenthau may have even bigger targets now under investigation. The case could lead to the wide circle of friends and associates Altman and Clifford have cultivated in Washington, and beyond Washington and banking, to BCCI's links to the television industry, to secret dealings in big cable television companies. Tom.
Thank you, Brian. When Nightly News continues in a moment, finally a good day for American car makers, thanks to the Chinese on a big buying trip with cash. And on America Close Up tonight, the epidemic of battered women, and what the law now is trying to do about that.
Listen, athlete's foot fungus grows beneath the surface of your skin. To cure it, you've got to get down to the root of the problem. You need Micatin.
Micatin penetrates the surface of your skin with miconazole to cure athlete's foot where it grows. Step up to the Micatin.
If you took the most effective diarrhea medicine and shaped it into a caplet, you'd have Imodium AD caplets, the only caplet that often stops diarrhea in one dose. Imodium AD caplets, the original prescription for one-dose relief.
I try to ignore my sensitive teeth, but they hurt.
Don't ignore your sensitive teeth. Sensodyne helps stop the pain that can make you stop brushing. Could lead even to tooth loss.
Thanks, Sensodyne.
Sensodyne helps stop the pain of sensitive teeth.
For cleaning, shining, and disinfecting, nothing outperforms us in the bathroom. Dow Bathroom Cleaner, starring Scrubbing Bubbles. We work hard so you don't have to.
The kind of surprise today that Detroit likes, a fiscal U-turn for Chrysler Corporation. Second quarter earnings of $178 million. Trucks were the key factor. Sales were up 60%. Some controversial news from Detroit today as well. A multi-million-dollar deal to put American cars on Chinese roads. A deal that ignored China's human rights record. More on this now from NBC's Mike Betcher.
Not your typical showroom shoppers, these Chinese. They were looking for a good deal on 9,000 American-made cars, and they were willing to pay cash, about $140 million cash.
Cash, right?
Yes, cash. In Detroit, representatives of the Chinese government and the big three automakers came together to seal the deal.
This act by Chinese government reflects the willingness of our government to see American cars competing in Chinese markets.
The Chinese were offering business to a business that desperately needs business. Few questions were asked. America's big three automakers were all getting a piece of the action.
2,700 vehicles delivered by the end of this calendar year will mean quite a few work for quite a few people.
Chrysler is very pleased because it gives us 3,200 vehicles that otherwise wouldn't have been sold.
This is about a whole week's worth of production at the Kansas City plant, so it is significant.
But these three-year-old images from Tiananmen Square loom over every Sino-American business deal. Critics argue that open-door trade policies and most favored nation trading status have not coaxed China to improve its human rights record.
It's really telling them that they can get away with brutal suppression without much cost.
Tiananmen was not mentioned in polite conversation today. After all, China bought what it wanted, and Detroit got what it needed. Mike Betcher, NBC News.
And there is a major development tonight in the firestorm over that controversial song, Cop Killer. Rap singer Ice-T says it will not be part of his album Body Count when new copies are made. We have more on this tonight from NBC's George Lewis.
Ice-T and the group Body Count at a Los Angeles concert last Friday.
Because this is bigger than me, y'all. This is about all of us getting together and fighting the power.
He said he was an artist exercising his First Amendment rights, that his song Cop Killer was a warning about black outrage that the white community needed to hear. Police officers protested at the Time Warner annual meeting, urging the company's record subsidiary to pull the Ice-T album off store shelves, but the company refused. On the Arsenio Hall show, Ice-T denied he meant any harm.
There's a lot of good cops out there, you know what I'm saying? I know a lot of police officers that are out there trying to do the right thing.
But the next day, NBC News obtained a home video of Ice-T taped during the Los Angeles riots in which he expressed a completely different view.
I personally would like to blow some police stations up, you know what I'm saying? And if it was up to me, I'd burn the White House down, you know? Because I'm an anarchist, I'm ready to do this. But some people gotta die, you know what I'm saying? If you ain't ready to spill no blood, then, you know, get on out of here, you know what I'm saying?
Today, the artist expressed concern about spilling blood, his own. He said because of death threats directed against him and his record company, he wanted the song Cop Killer removed from his album.
You have the right to say anything, but you don't have the right to say something. You can say anything, but if you say something, they're going to kill you.
George Lewis, NBC News, Los Angeles.
On Wall Street today, news of Chrysler's surprise profits helped push stocks much higher. Trading today was heavy.
In our universe, there is always the unknown, the unpredictable. All we can do is prepare for it.
AT&T is now installing Fast Start. It can detect a cable cut instantly, so 800 calls can get back in minutes instead of hours.
We can send flowers for any occasion, anywhere, but only if our 800 service is up and running. Our 800 service isn't just a phone line, it's a lifeline.
I miss you.
AT&T has the most reliable 800 service, period.
AT&T. Call us.
It's nothing serious. It only wakes me up a couple of times a week. It really doesn't affect me. I avoid foods that are fried or spicy. I can deal with it. I just take antacids.
If you have frequent heartburn symptoms like acid indigestion or burning in the chest, talk to your doctor. These may be signs of a serious medical problem. Your doctor has treatment plans that can help.
It's only a heartburn. I should learn to live with it. Right?
Frequent heartburn. Isn't it time you talk to your doctor?
Listen up, team! You want to keep your sandwiches fresh? Use Ziploc brand sandwich bags with the Gripper Zipper. Tough, tiny teeth you can feel gripping, so you know freshness is locked in. Let's win one for the Gripper! There's only one Ziploc.
You make me feel so young.
Promise Extra Light Spread. Half the saturated fat and calories of margarine and a taste you'll enjoy with all your heart.
You make me feel so young.
Now Promise Extra Light in sticks. Get heart smart.
On America Close Up tonight, a national shame. Domestic violence. It accounts for 1/3 of all hospital emergency room visits. The leading cause of injury for American women. Violence is epidemic. One woman battered every 15 seconds. 1 out of 2 American women involved in a violent relationship sometime during their lifetime. Most states pay too little attention, but an exception is Massachusetts. NBC's Fred Briggs tonight begins his report in Quincy.
He said he was going to break me in two. And he said, you know I can do it. He threw the baby on the floor and started punching me in the face right here.
I thought the next one's coming right to my jaw.
Battered women, able to tell their stories, unlike 19 others in the Boston area this year whose lives were taken by the men in their lives. All this caused Massachusetts to crack down on first-time abusers, to get the batterer off the streets before he becomes a murderer.
He's not to be near 1,000 yards of you.
One area of the state has already made a head start in streamlining such cases. In Quincy, south of Boston, and 5 surrounding towns, there hasn't been a death from domestic violence in 5 years.
This court now in session. Please be seated.
It begins when women come to court asking for a restraining order, an order that's supposed to keep the man away from her.
I don't even go to the grocery store anymore around the corner because he'll be there. And I'm afraid of him.
Before they enter the courtroom, women are briefed by the district attorney's staff, told what to expect, told that taking this step isn't always easy.
We know that it's difficult. This is a person that you obviously cared about, you may still have feelings for.
His last punch hit me, and I hit like right here, and knocked my jaw out of this alignment.
You don't recall punching her to the jaw?
Just pushed her and she went on the floor.
A restraining order is a civil matter. Only when it's violated does it become criminal, and the victim must report that violation.
This paper is not worth what I'm writing on it if it doesn't give you protection. We try very hard to encourage the victim where a crime has been committed, to permit that criminal justice system to kick in and get control of the abuser.
The first time there's a sign that they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and you have to bring them right back into court.
Probation officers keep abusers on a very short leash. Some wind up going to jail. More often than not, they've been there before.
In 1990, we had 800 men who were the subjects of civil restraining orders. 75% of those men had criminal records.
By the end of the year, all judges in the state will have computer access to abusers' records, but some abusers do cross state lines.
We have to have access to a national registry, if you will, of restraining orders and domestic violence incidents, because men go from one abusive relationship to another abusive relationship.
I had to leave my home in fear of my life.
This woman moved to Quincy from another city that didn't enforce restraining orders. Because of it, in her home, her boyfriend beat her in front of her children.
Where we lived, the police didn't do anything. We had to seek our help through the courts.
And now it's in trial, but it keeps being continued.
We have cases that may take 8 months to try, but we try domestic violence cases within 2 months.
Which can be uneasy months.
You're always afraid that he's going to be in the shadows or in the dark or, you know, you never know what's going to happen. And all I want is I want to be left alone, but yet I want him to know what he did was wrong.
The state has taken its cue from this city. Many think the nation might do that too. Fred Briggs, NBC News, Quincy, Massachusetts.
To help battered women, the National Council on Child Abuse and Family Violence has set up this phone line. The number is 1-800-222-2000. When Nightly News continues in a moment, I'll have more news. John Chancellor will have a commentary tonight on Dan Quayle.
I think I'm going to need some more.
Dear Thompsons, while protecting our deck, we ran out of Thompson's water seal.
And so did the local store.
Reluctantly, we finished with another brand.
How do we know it's going to work like Thompson's?
What a mistake. The Thompson side beat it up in the rain.
The other side, nothing.
Thompson's water seal has 50% more active ingredients for more waterproofing power.
Even the clerk agreed. Nothing works like Thompson.
Sincerely, Blair and Becky Jones.
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Over the past 30 years, more people have taken one brand of sleep aid more than any other for a good night's sleep. Sominex. Sominex has the one ingredient doctors recommend most to help you fall asleep safely without worry. Safe, simple Sominex.
Morning breath.
Once you're married, you get used to it.
Deep down, you know it's a problem.
I don't smell anything.
Lucky you.
Morning breath. If I had it, they'd tell me.
Ignoring morning breath won't make it go away. Scope will. Its 2 powerful ingredients kill 90% of the bacteria that cause morning breath.
Was my morning breath really a big problem?
There's no denying it's a problem. Kiss morning breath goodbye with Scope.
I was really downing those tablets. Come on, they're not candy. I started to think there was something really wrong with my stomach. Was I relieved when my doctor told me to try a new antacid tablet.
Introducing Mylanta tablets, shown to neutralize more stomach acid than the leading tablet.
Unbelievable.
New Mylanta tablets.
My doctor said Mylanta.
Here's a quick check now of some of today's other news from around the world. A frail-looking Pope John Paul II left the hospital 13 days after major surgery to remove a benign intestinal tumor. The 72-year-old Pope should be able to travel to Central America this October, however. Another Mafia hit in Sicily. Gunmen on motorcycles ambushed this car and killed a mob investigator, defying a crackdown involving thousands of Italian troops. French troops took up positions as part of the UN peacekeeping force in Bosnia. With no end of the fighting in sight, relief airdrops are now being considered. Turning now to American politics, John Chancellor is here with commentary now on Dan Quayle, who is getting a lot of attention after all.
He sure is, Tom. When Dan Quayle writes his memoirs, let's hope he tells of his escape from a firing squad in 1992, when some important Republicans wanted him dumped as the vice presidential candidate. Serious consideration of dropping Quayle began about 2 weeks ago. Polls show that Bush was falling into the cellar and that Quayle's unpopularity was a weight around the president's neck. Last Wednesday, the Wall Street Journal said Quayle may go. On Thursday, the New York Times said 2 separate groups of Republican senators were talking about replacing Quayle. The Wall Street Journal said this was going on at the highest levels. The conservative counterattack came on Friday. William F. Buckley said he'd been told Quayle had offered to withdraw. Buckley's newspaper column warned that if Quayle had to be replaced, conservatives would be watching with intense ideological curiosity. Paul Gigo's column in the Wall Street Journal said Quayle wasn't the problem, Bush was the problem. Gigo wrote that the Dump Dan rumors were a sideshow to the Dump George movement. The right was rallying behind Quayle, and next day it was all over. Saturday's paper said the matter was now closed after 10 days of talks between Bush and Quayle. This story, incidentally, came not from the president, but from Quayle's office. That's something to remember. This was a crisis for Quayle. He and his staff handled it with great skill. Quayle ends up the loyalist, Bush ends up the problem. Quayle should really tell this whole story someday, Tom.
Thank you, John. When Nightly News continues in a moment, the latest from Barcelona and an American swimmer's golden year.
The makers of Dimetapp know it's important for allergy and cold sufferers to trust their medication. Doctors and pharmacists have trusted the Dimetapp brand for safe, effective relief for 30 years. You can trust Dimetapp Extend tabs for 12 hours of allergy relief. And if you're concerned about drowsiness, Dimetapp contains one of the least sedating, non-prescription antihistamines. Trust Dimetapp, the #1 doctor-recommended antihistamine decongestant non-prescription formula.
If you have a light to moderate bladder control problem, Attens protection has never been simpler. No belts, no buttons. The new Attens beltless undergarments stick securely to your underwear. Flexible leg gathers hug your body, forming a specially designed protective cup. Secure protection is easy with new beltless Attens. For a free sample, call 1-800-432-4000. With no belts or buttons, new Attens make secure protection simple.
A late night snack, and no bag keeps it fresher than Ziploc brand storage bags with the gripper zipper. Tough, tiny teeth you can feel gripping, so you know freshness is locked in.
Honey.
Caught red-handed. There's only one Ziploc.
Can you believe it when some margarines say buttery taste and there's no butter in them? Kraft Touch a Butter spread has rich, creamy butter in it. Just a touch. Kraft Touch a Butter. A touch of real butter makes a real difference.
Your rugged routine, day after day. It's even harder when Athlete's Foot routinely comes back. Get prescription strength Lotrimin AF. It kills all causes of Athlete's Foot. Lotrimin AF, the finish line for Athlete's Foot.
Do you get diarrhea too?
Yes, I get diarrhea. My immediate reaction is, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. I use kale pectate because it works. Kale pectate stops my diarrhea. I rely on it.
Okay, here we go again. If you don't want to hear the Olympic results, turn down the volume or cover your ears. It is hard, by the way, to tune out Charles Barkley, who said of the Dream Team's basketball prowess today, other than the armed forces, this may be the only thing that we're dominant at in the world. Now, some results. American gymnasts finished behind the unified team in the first medal round. American swimmers, a world record, but also major upsets. And for one swimmer, a day of reflected glory. NBC's Deborah Roberts with Pablo Morales.
Pablo Morales is now golden. At 27, he was considered an aging swimmer, a long shot. In 53 seconds, he proved his critics were all wet.
Is your gold medal revenge against all those people who said you're too old to come back?
Well, actually, it was kind of nice to have that sort of expectation of people saying, well, you're doing fine, but we don't really expect you to win.
He won an incredibly close race by just 0.03 of a second. This moment was for the whole Morales family.
How does a gold medal winner sleep at night, or do you?
I crashed last night. I was tired. Physically, emotionally, I was very tired, very satisfied, and I slept peacefully.
It was a night that came after 8 disappointing years. In 1984, the gold slipped away. Morales left the Olympics with silver. He lost a slot in the '88 games and decided to leave the water for law school. Then, last fall, another letdown. Morales' mother died. She had been his motivation. He decided to make a comeback, dedicating his efforts to her. Pablo Sr. cheered his son on, always clutching a picture of Blanca Morales.
Whenever I swim, I can't help but remember her support and the way she was there for me when I was swimming.
Today, Morales and his family visited only briefly as he prepared for his final competition, a relay race on Friday. Then there's the future. One more year of law school, maybe endorsements, and...
Yeah, I would like to use perhaps what I've learned this year to maybe extend my career a little bit longer.
Pablo Morales, the old man, continuing to swim?
A geezer. Yeah, hill soldier, yeah.
But the next competition won't really matter. Pablo Morales has already come back. Deborah Roberts, NBC News, Barcelona.
And a reminder, tonight's Olympic coverage on NBC opens with Janet Evans swimming for a gold to match the ones that she took home from Seoul. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Just ahead from your 24-hour news source, the EPA investigating the city's south side.
They're looking into high levels of lead found in the soil here. I'm Mary Mills. I'll have a live eye report.
Des Moines police building up their video library will show you gang members captured in the act.
And it's the evidence prosecutors believe will convict Terry Lass in the murder of her son. But the question is, will the jury ever get to see it? I'm Jim Strickland. Details next.
And Olympic triple cast, not quite a gold medal winner. All the day's news coming up next.
Pioneer brand 3417.
Works gives you what you want selection. Now choose from VIP and Mariah sports boats powered by Work Cruiser, Spectrum fishing boats and pontoons, and new to Des Moines, the popular line of Rinker cruisers. Selection in all boating accessories like skis from Kidder, Connolly, EP, and more. Service. You can trust the Boat Works to keep you on the water. Our 4 factory-trained technicians have the knowledge and tools to get the job done right the first time. Selection and service together mean value. Value like this VIP Vision powered by Work Cruiser, only $99.95. Selection and service mean value for you at the Boat Works in Des Moines.
Change is good. That's why you'll like the changes that the Jenny O line can bring to your life. At a price that's a nice change, too. With everything from lean turkey bacon and ready-to-slice turkey breasts to light turkey franks and a versatile ground turkey. So take home Jenny O tonight. And take home some change as well. Jenny O. Change on your table and in your pocket.
Live from WHO TV 13, where the news comes first 24 hours a day. John Bachman, Kim Kerrigan, Rick Silvestrini with sports, and meteorologist Gary Amble with the weather. This is News Center 13 at 6.
Dangerous lead levels in this southeast Des Moines neighborhood. The EPA considers evacuating some residents.
Spit it out. It's right there on the side of your foot.
And a narcotics bust in Des Moines, all captured on police videotape, the latest weapon in the department's drug war arsenal. Good evening. More on the use of video cameras in the war on drugs, but first, an EPA investigation in full swing tonight.
The contaminated property is on Southeast 7th and Raccoon in Des Moines, the location of a former battery reclamation site. The investigation began more than a year ago. Levels of lead tested dangerously high on 7 residential properties in that area. Tonight, there's talk that those homeowners may be forced to move. The decision to move those residents, however, will be up to the EPA.
As we mentioned earlier, EPA officials from Kansas City were on the site today. News Center 13's Mary Mills at the site now, and she joins us with a live eye. Mary?
Well, John, according to City Councilman Archie Brooks, it appears certain that residents in this area will have to move, 7 in all. We did talk with an EPA spokesman earlier, though, and he says that may be a little premature, that they still need to do some additional soil testing before any decision is made. Now, residents in the area say they are aware of the testing. However, one woman said she was not aware of the possible evacuation. She certainly was not happy to hear that. As we said, the investigation here began about a year ago when the EPA officials were investigating another contaminated site, the old Irwin chemical plant. Apparently, as they were doing some soil testing in the area, they discovered high levels of lead, which were traced to an old battery reclamation site, which used to sit over on the property where that fence is over there. Again, the levels of lead found in the soil are considered dangerously high. The decision now is when and whether to move residents from this area. And Archie Brooks is hoping that that decision will come soon. John?
Okay, thank you very much. Mary Mills reporting live for us.
Our other top story tonight, one more weapon in the battle against gangs and drug activity here in Des Moines.
Police are catching suspects in the act. And as News Center 13's Kathy Soto reports, it's all on videotape.
Des Moines police storm what they say is a known drug house on Clark Street. Several people are arrested. Many, police say, are involved in gangs. Drugs are confiscated, and it's all captured on videotape. It's a new game plan for the Des Moines Tactical Unit.
It helps build our credibility as far as being experts out on the street. This is what we see every day.
The tape of the drug bust gives a walking tour of the house. Police say that may help them in future raids.